my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys, but not just any book talk. No. This is our first ever book club selection book talk, and that book that we are talking about is The Clockmaker's Daughter by Kate Morton. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to be announcing the March book club book, so stay tuned for that if you are interested in reading along with us again, or starting if you're new and didn't get to read along for February's book. Let me just start off this book talk by saying that this book was a lot. It was long. It was almost 500 pages of a very intricate story. And it took me longer than I had anticipated it to actually read this. There were moments when I was like, what book have I picked for this book club? Because as much as I was enjoying it as I was reading it, it was just a lot. And I'm hoping that everyone who wanted to read it stuck with it and saw it through to the end, because I do know that it was a bit of a choppy ride at times. But that being said, it was a fantastic story. First of all, Kate Morton, what an absolute treasure of a writer. I found her prose to be so beautiful. There were so many lines that I read that I went back and reread a few times because I thought they were very just beautifully said. And the story is woven together amazingly. Like, Kate Morton is the kind of writer that when I read a book like this, I think like, wow, that's a storyteller. My main complaint would be the length. I felt like it could have maybe had a bit of it chopped out. Like maybe it could have come in at 350 or 400 pages rather than the almost 500 pages it was. But there was a lot of people's story to tell. So if you're familiar with my book talk videos, you know that normally I start at the beginning of a book and I talk us through to the end, but there's no way, there's just no way that I'd be able to do that with this book without the book video being, I don't know, 3 hours long. There's too many characters, there's too many stories. But I will tell you the gist of the story, and then I'll share my feelings. And if you've read the book, either with us in the book club or just on your own, jump into the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the characters, what you thought of the story, what you thought of the author and the way that she told the story, because I can't wait to hear everything that you thought about it. Also, this is just our first book club book talk, so I don't really know what I'm doing here. Maybe as the months go by, I'll change the format of the way that I review the books for the book club book talks. It's a mouthful. But for this first one, we're just gonna wing it and see where it takes us. So, The Clockmaker's Daughter. The book starts off in present day with a character named Elodie. She is the daughter of a very famous cellist who died at a very young age, very prematurely. Elodie works as an archivist where she, goes through old things, takes very good care of them, and files them, or whatever an archivist does. Anyway, during her work, she finds a very old satchel that is filled with a sketchbook. And the sketches are made by an artist by the name of Edward Radcliffe. And in with his things, she finds a very fetching portrait of an unknown woman. And these two things, the sketchbook and the portrait, kind of send her off on a journey of trying to put the pieces together of who these two people are. The main reason she's spurred on to go and find out more about them is that in the sketchbook, she sees a sketch of a house. And as soon as she sees it, she's very almost kind of startled by it, because it's a house that she knows very well, but she only knows it very well from stories that her mother used to tell her when she was a little girl. And as far as her mother would have had her known, it wasn't a real house, it was just a house from a story. And her mother told her the story, and her mother's uncle had told her mother the story. So it's kind of just the story passed down through generations. But then Elodie sees it in the sketch and she's kind of set off on the journey. First, she goes to her Uncle Tip, who had been the one who told her mother the story, and sees what kind of information she can get from him, but it's not a whole lot. So she goes off on her quest. At its very root, this book is a ghost story, and I don't mean that in some sort of, metaphorical way. I mean a literal ghost story that takes place inside of a haunted house, and those are some of my all-time favorite stories. I love a good ghost story, and I love a good haunted house. So I was pleased to find that out because I didn't know that going into it. In fact, kind of all of the ideas that I had about the book based on what it looks like, what the cover looks like and what the blurb says about it, were kind of smashed away once I actually read the book. And I mean that in a really good way. And along with being a ghost story at its basis, at its core, most basic essence, it's a story about time and timelines and the kind of place that can keep bringing people back to it. Because at the center of this story is a house, an old house that all of the characters that we meet have some sort of connection to. And there are just so many intricate stories that all in the end tie together. And it's also a mystery. There's a death and there's a mystery to it. And, you spend the whole time wondering who really the ghost is. Once you kind of get an idea for who the ghost is, that it's Lily Millington, you begin to wonder how she ends up a ghost at that house, because for a good portion of the story, we're made to think that this particular character, whose timeline happens in the 1860s, left the house. She kind of betrayed Edward, the artist, left the house, stole from him. So when you know that, and then you know that's the ghost, and you're kind of thinking, well, why is she a ghost of the house if she left it? And so then it's kind of a mystery to unravel, because as far as ghost lore goes, that to be a ghost of a house, chances are you died there. So that really kept me guessing as I tried to figure out what happened. And then once you get to the place where you figure out what happened, it's so sad and it's so unnecessary, and it leaves you feeling just this ache in the pit of your stomach when you realize how easily it all could have been avoided. The death, Lily's death, and then the stories that grew around it that painted her in a certain way that was not the way she actually lived and died. So you just have this great labyrinth of different stories, and they're just beautifully woven together in a way that was really satisfying. I found the ending to be really, really satisfying, if not also incredibly sad. There were some elements to the story that made me think of the book Atonement. Not so much in the actual story, but kind of in the way that a child, in a fairly innocent and childlike way, plays such a big part in a tragedy of sorts. And if you've read Atonement and you've read this one, maybe you'll know what I'm talking about. So what we find out about the ending is that Lucy, Edward's sister, was pretty much the reason for Lily's death. What happened was, after sort of a childlike temper tantrum when they're trying to get a portrait of everyone out in the garden, Lucy runs inside because she's kind of been replaced and from the main role of the portrait that she wanted and put towards the back. So she kind of runs in. She's like 12 or 13 at this point, so she runs inside. Shortly thereafter, Lily follows her in. She had put on her neck the Radcliffe Blue, which was the family's heirloom jewels. She put it on her neck. She's looking in the mirror to kind of see what it would feel like to be Lily. And then Lily comes in, Lucy takes it off and puts it in her pocket, as they can hear a man named Morton approaching the house, and he comes in. Morton is someone that Lily used to know, and he has come now to collect her because he says that he has sent her there to steal the jewels. But while Lily's been there, she's had a change of heart, and she's now engaged to Edward, and she wants to spend her life with him. But Morton's not having it, so he starts to get violent, and then Lucy picks up like a candelabra and she hits him with it. And while he's knocked out temporarily on the floor, the two women kind of move into action. So Lucy, the sister, says to Lily, there's a sort of a hiding space here under the floor. And so she gets Lily in there, and Lily's like, okay, but where are you going to go? And Lucy says, it's okay, there's one upstairs. I'll go hide in that one. So she puts Lily in the hiding space, and then to secure it, she pushes a chair over top of it. And then she goes and gets in her hiding space. Then later in the day, she is found, and she was like unconscious, and she wakes up in the bed, and then there Edward and the police are, and they're talking to her, and they're kind of telling her what happened. That Lily had run off with Morton, and that they stole the jewels. And at this point, Lucy's very confused. We know that the last we saw the jewels, it was when Lucy had them on her neck and then she put them in her pocket. And the police are telling her that Lily's gone, that she left with Morton. And Lucy knows that she put Lily under the floorboards, but she figures that Lily must have called out, Morton let her out, and then they left. But they don't go and check, and Lucy doesn't say anything. Then it cuts to a few years later when Lucy finds in her pocket the jewel, the Radcliffe blue, that Lily had been accused of stealing. So she kind of just lives with that guilt. She doesn't say anything to anybody. She keeps the jewel hidden until finally 20 years later, her brother Edward finally dies. She finds out that he's left her the house, and she gets ready to go back to the house, and she needs to find out, and she looks under the floorboards, and sure enough, that's where Lily died. She had just run out of oxygen, and she had died there. She hadn't run off with the man Morton, as everyone, said she hadn't stolen the jewels. And there's just such a sadness to the way that Lily's life ended, and the way that, it's just been 20 years now, her body's just been left there. So Lucy decides that she is going to open up a school for young children in this house. But first, before she has to do that, she gives Lily a proper burial. And yeah, it's just, there's a sadness to it. So the whole time when it's flashing to the perspective of the ghost, of course it was Lily. And that's why she was a ghost there. She never left the house. She died there as a young woman, trapped underneath the floor. And so the way that it ends, it's from Lily's point of view as the ghost in the house. And so after Lily passed away and became a ghost, she says that after, she kind of tells us how it was from when she passed away to when she regained consciousness as a ghost. Talks about finally waking up and being able to leave the cupboard where she had been, and going out and seeing everyone, all of her friends, but no matter how much she yelled and screamed and begged them, they didn't acknowledge her because, of course, they couldn't see her. And she mentions that a ghost gains strength the longer it's been passed and the longer it's haunting. And now she can get people's attention by slamming doors or moving things or whatever. And then she recalls them all leaving the house and how upsetting that was. But now she's come to enjoy the house. She's a part of it. It's a part of her. And there's a part here, I really love the ending, and I'm just going to read it to you now. So it says, people value shiny stones and lucky charms, but they forget that the most powerful talismans of all are the stories we tell to ourselves and to others. And so I will be waiting. When I was alive and the great craze came first upon society, spiritualism and the desire to communicate with the dead, there was an assumption that ghosts and apparitions longed for release, that we haunt because we're trapped. But it's not so. I do not wish to be set free. I am of this house that Edward loved. I am this house. I am each whorl and each piece of timber. I am every nail. I am the wick in the lamp, the hook for a coat. I am the tricky lock on the front door. I am the tap that drips and the red rust circle on the porcelain sink. I'm the crack in the bathroom tile. I'm the chimney pot and the black snaking drain pipe. I am the air within each room. I am the hands of the clock and the space in between. I am the noise you hear when you think you're hearing nothing at all. I am the light in the window that you know cannot be there. I am the stars in the dark when you feel yourself alone. And I love that ending. And I love the way that the story tells itself so that we can connect the story of Edward and Lily and Lucy and James all the way through time back to Elodie in the present day. Or all the way forward through time to Elodie in the present day. And it's just, as you're first introduced to all these many people, you're like, what does this have to do with anything? But then once it's all laid out, it is so beautiful. It's so well done. It's so well written. This is the first book from Kate Morton that I've read, but I can't wait to read more. She's written quite a few from what I can see so far. And I just thought it was a really well told story. But like I said at the beginning, you just kind of got to get through the first bit and just keep on going, and the reward is so sweet at the end. So, loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. More than I thought I was going to while I was reading. Some books are just like that, you know, they're a little trickier in the moment when you're reading, but then the payoff is so good. I would actually also really, really love to see these characters brought to life. There's too much for a movie. There's no way they can make a movie out of it, but maybe like Netflix or Hulu or something can make a series out of it one day. I think that'd be really interesting because I would love to see these characters alive on the screen. So that'd be pretty fun. And if you've read any other Kate Morton books, let me know. What should I read next from her? And I can stick it in the to be read pile that is always growing. So like I said too, as the months go by, we'll figure out the best way for me to film these videos and review the books that were the book club books. But for now, we're just winging it. So I hope this was okay. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you not love it? Was it a bit of too much of a trudge through the labyrinth to get to the end for you? I just love to hear all your thoughts. And now, before we go, I'm going to announce the book for next month's book club. I think it is, let me check the calendar here to see what date that book talk will be going up. Okay, the 29th. So March 29th is the day that I'll be posting my book talk on the book club book. And that book is, I'm excited about this one, you guys. It is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I've read a few of Kristen Hanna's books. I read The Nightingale that I loved. There was another one, I think it was called The Magic Hour. That one was great as well. I didn't love it as much as The Nightingale, but this is her newest one. I think it's from 2018, if not 2017. And I can't wait to read it because she's a fantastic writer. So there you go, you guys. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm sorry about the delay in the posting, but like I said, it took me longer to read it than I thought it was going to. And I wasn't ready for Friday. So I said, let's just push this to the weekend because I did get that bonus book talk for Trisha's book up on Thursday. So I said, let's just wait till Monday. Anyway, thank you so much, you guys. I'll be on time with the next one, I promise. And I hope you enjoyed the read. I hope you're looking forward to the next one. And I will see you on Wednesday. Bye, guys.